The question comes, are there any tests to predict spontaneous preterm births? Especially in this high risk group where the pregnancies become extremely precious in a woman who is older or who has become pregnant as a result of ART, one wants to know whether we can predict preterm birth, or sometimes you can have women presenting with symptoms or signs suggestive of preterm birth, but the cervix is closed, the myometrial contraction is not really recordable on the tokometer. And what is this tokometer? A simple thing, while you are doing an NST, you can use a CTG even in a preterm baby and try to look for myometrial activity. And if you are not able to see it, but the patient is complaining, the question comes, can we use something to identify this occurrence of preterm births? And there are two such tests which have been proposed and are available. The assessment of the fetal fibronectin, and two is the assessment of the placental alpha microglobulin 1, which is called as the PAMG1 test. And both have been compared in a small study and many few other studies, and there have been regression meta-analysis which have been showing that PAMG1 test is a better predictor, has a better positive predictive value in the 7 days preceding spontaneous preterm birth than the fetal fibronectin test. Of course, these tests are not very easily available. They do cost some money to the pocket, but looking at the very high incidence of preterm births and the consequences, I think this particular spend would be rational, and it helps the gynecologist to take a proper decision. I'll give you an example of a patient who was a typical vegan, was not taking any food which was efficient in iron and B12. With diligent cajoling throughout the antenatal period, suffering anemia all the time and genitourinary infections, we kept on treating her. But as would happen at around 29 to 30 weeks of gestation, she presented with some very vague pain. And when I saw her, there was not much of a cervical change, but on sonography, her Liker had reduced. So what we did was, we did this PAMG1 test and it came positive, telling us that probably there is a silent problem. There was no obvious leak or water break, nor did she give us a history. The only history that she gave was a change in a vaginal discharge to a mucoidal discharge. I gave her an hospitalization for a period of 24 to 48 hours, wherein we gave her antenatal steroids, we gave her magnesium sulfate 24 hours, and we also started her on progesterone and indomethacin. I gave her a short course of antibiotic in the form of azithromycin and secnidazole, and we did her CRP levels and leukocytes. Both of them showed normal readings, and with this understanding, we discharged her with a promise of a home visit if necessary and a follow-up after 72 hours. After 72 hours, we had an online follow-up where she told me that she's feeling much better now, and then after a week we planned, after about 72 hours from that phone call, we planned her sonography. And this sonography revealed that the Liker had improved and even the baby's weight had incremented a little by about 100 grams. That has given us confidence, and we continued with the progesterone and the medications that we were giving her till the period of about 34 weeks. At 34 weeks, I withdrew her natural micronized progesterone and the indomethacin, and then her pregnancy after that continued till 37 weeks of gestation, wherein she went into labor spontaneously and delivered a healthy baby weighing 2.9 kg. So I think the success story is a result of a very, very astute involvement into the patient's symptomatology, quick management, identification, proper surveillance, and that definitely gives us a result. So finally, individualization of care and proper usage of the screening methods that we have can help.